I remember it like yesterday when Matt came down the stairs and said so casually with a smile, I booked a one-way ticket to Santiago, Chile. I thought to myself, is this real? Can we really leave our amazing careers, friends, and family? Fast forward 10 months later, after all the hard conversations, endless checklists, and heartfelt goodbyes, we were heading to the airport with one backpack each, about to set out for a multi-year adventure around the world. Filled with excitement, we had no idea what to expect, but we knew it would be a fun ride. Join us as we share what we are learning on our journey of a lifetime. This is Passport Joy Travel Talk with Nikki and Matt Jabbit. Hello, listeners. So today is a very informative episode full of great information for all of you travelers out there. We're going to talk about the electronics and technology that we use during our travels that help us tremendously. And we hope that it will help you too on your journey, whether it be even if you just use it at home or if you use it during your travels. We're also going to answer some questions from our followers about some scary situations that we've encountered on the road. Thanks again for tuning in, and please be sure to subscribe on the podcast tool that you use, whether it be iTunes, Stitcher. We personally use Overcast, and when you subscribe, you will automatically receive each episode when it is published. And when you do feel comfortable, please rate and review us as well. We will be discussing our contest at the end of this episode. It is awesome. We have some amazing prizes, some free stuff that you guys can get. You can enter by giving us a review at the end, but we'll get into more detail with that. Okay, now on to the episode, and we hope you enjoy.
All right, this is our technology episode, things that are helping us on the way to make it easy for us to travel and things you might find useful in your own experiences on the road. Start off just with the highlights, the basics, obviously, with the social media. Social media has been great just to stay in contact with our family. We have a couple of private groups that we share only our private information with our family so they can see where we are to make sure that we have that second touch point. Even though we're older in our life, it's still important to make sure that people know where you are in your general area of travel with flights and buses and cars and whatnot. So we definitely use the social media, but more focused electronics that you might not come to line or come in mind, and technology. We'll go through a list and kind of just throw these out there, and hopefully there'll be one or two in here that you have not thought of and you can incorporate into your own travel as you make your trip. First, the phone. I love our phone. The phone that I got, Nikki does not have. She has an iPhone, but she doesn't have a line or anything like that. I have the Google Pixel. It's the first Google phone that they had. It's the first edition. And we have the Google Fi program on that. And essentially what Google Fi does, is spelled F-I, it'll be in the show notes. All this will be in the show notes as well. But it allows us to travel into new countries. And when we land, we have instant telephone connection, cellular plan. So if we land in Greece, automatically, instead of having to go and get a new SIM card, or if we land in Europe, we don't have to get a new SIM card, we automatically are on a local Greek cellular plan that allows us to make a phone call right away. So if something happens on the flight, or if we have to find a taxi right away, bam, we're already going. And this has been wonderful as we obviously, with our plan of traveling around the world, to be able to land in South America or Europe or Asia or South Africa, and instantly you get communication, have the ability to download and update the family quickly to say, hey, we're here, we're safe, we're good, and we're on to the next point. So that's been wonderful. And their plan is super competitive. They just even increased the plan even more so that they have charges on their data. It's like capped. I won't quote the exact price in case it changes, but it's extremely competitive. In some countries, we found that we went to India. Data in India is extremely cheap. It's like 6 cents per gig. So it's crazy cheap in some countries, but there's other countries where having the Google Fi program has been very advantageous. It doesn't work everywhere. When we were in Vietnam, we had no cellular coverage, but as always, you can always tap into the Wi-Fi in the local area. So that's the main one for communication, is my phone, and it takes great photos. The Pixel does, but the Google Fi program, I'm a huge fan of it. And I've talked about it a few times on social media, but I think it's something that you should at least look into if you travel out of the country. Because I remember when I used to have the AT&T plan, and we would take our two or three trips a year, that would destroy our budget because I was working, obviously, or we wouldn't even have cellular plan when we went, which is always a good way too, because then you disconnect yourself from that. And then some of the other great technologies that that I used at home that we just transitioned into our everyday life on the road. Dropbox is great for sharing files, whether they're videos, sound apps, documents back to the family, that if one of our family members has to take care of something for us, whether it's legal or just personal, we can drop it in Dropbox real quick and share it that way. Evernote, I take notes in Evernote and save those for our travels. I have like a daily or a weekly diary and stuff that I do in Evernote, and I keep notes there. Or if I'm working on side projects, I store those in Evernote, which is fun. And then we use all the Google Docs. Some of these platforms are repetitive. Like I could use Evernote for certain things I use in Google Docs, but some of it's just preference of use. But all the Google, Gmail, Calendar, Docs, those things are amazing. We continue to use those. If you're not using those, they're wonderful. And Trello. Trello is a project management tool. In the startup world, it continues to grow quickly, and that's spelled Trello. We used to use it for our shopping lists at home. Instead of always making a shopping list each week or every other week, in Trello, we would just pull and drag whatever we needed in that particular week. So that was a great time saver for us, because then whoever was going to shop on that particular day, they could just pull up Trello and know what we needed at home. So you could use that at your home there in the States or wherever. And on the road, we use it similarly if we're sharing things, but also for project-based work. If we're working on some photography we're working on, or a blog posts or podcast or whatever, we use Trello a bunch to kind of have one place we can look and pull and drag and look at different assignments or to-do list type thing. But all those are extremely helpful. ExpressVPN. So if you're not using a virtual private network when you're traveling, you're risking it. Even at home too, if you're going to a Starbucks or a cafe, you need to have some sort of virtual private network. Essentially, it's a private connection to the internet, so it's more secure. Nothing is 100% secure, but it makes it much more secure. The other cool thing about ExpressVPN is because it can appear that you're somewhere that you're not. So it's kind of confusing the local internet channels that you're playing within. So if we're in Thailand and I use ExpressVPN to make it look like I'm in San Francisco or Chicago or New York, you can actually tap into services that are in the States that you might not be able to get in Thailand. For example, Netflix or something like a Netflix, which is cool. They are getting smarter. The companies that use this are getting smarter as to understand that if you have a VPN on, they might not let you to do that. But we've used it as a good workaround to view shows back home when we turn on the ExpressVPN. So that's something to look at, and it's a great security. Speaking of security, Tor, Tor, it's a type of web browser. You should definitely look into Tor. They use it for the dark web, but it's also great for, on a personal level, for finances, doing any banking work. Using Tor is a great way to hide your identity and who you are and stay safe as well, because it's an extremely private web browser instead of using like a Firefox or a Google Chrome. I do use Google Chrome, but Tor is another great tool that we use while we travel. And then other things to consider and think about: LastPass or some sort of secure password, and tools like portable chargers. Continue to remember to bring a portable charger when you travel, because it's something you might forget. We had good friends of ours suggest it, and it reminded us right before we left. And thank God they told us that, because it is definitely something that we're happy we packed. Because those epic trips out where you have all kinds of photos or videos you're taking, your batteries can die quickly and you need to reboot and recharge. Travel adapters, there's universal travel adapters you can buy. So we have a couple that we've taken that plug into anywhere around the world, any continent you might go to, they can plug in and give you a charge. Because a lot of times you go on vacation, you're like, oh damn, I forgot my American power cords don't plug into this Greek power cord. You're not gonna be able to charge anything. Yeah, you can buy it locally, but it's pretty cool to have one adapter, one universal adapter that you just pack every time anywhere you go. So check those out. And long cords for your phones. I know the typical phone cord for a Samsung or iPhone or Pixel in my case, they can be shorter when you purchase it, about 3 feet. So if you go to an Amazon, you can get like a 6 or a 9 or a 12 foot long cord, because at airports, this is critical. you're not always going to have a long cord. Or if you do, if you're lucky enough to have a bus, or even like if you're in a hostel, there's situations where you're going to need a long cord for your phone. And if you don't have a long cord, it's going to be hard to get that charge you need late at night or something when you definitely need it. And I think that Groovebook, we've mentioned Groovebook a couple of times. It's the way that we share photos with our family back home in this really cool 100 photo booklet that we download once a month, our photos from the prior month and on their using their mobile app. And then it just pushes over to them and it prints and sends out these cool little booklets to our family. So instead of us sending a postcard from the places we're going around the world, we send them 100 photos from our prior month's activities. And it's big at home for people that want to share photos of their kids and family and events. But we found it to be an amazing way to share photos while we travel around the world. So Groovebook's cool. They just raised their prices a little bit, which sucks, but it's still a great little way to share our experiences with our family. And yeah, it's just a cool company too. They were on Shark Tank. I saw them early on. Their technology continues to improve. And the last one is Flight Stats. This is an awesome app that Nikki put me onto. It basically, you put any flight in there, the destination, as long as you have like a few pieces of the information, you can track the flight when somebody's taking off. I did it. My brother was going on a vacation recently, and as soon as he landed, he was on a layover. And as soon as he landed, I texted him. I said, "Hey, how was that flight?" And he's like, "Dude, are you stalking me?" That's how a lot of times when we're in airports, we use Flight Stats because we will get the updates before they actually post them at the airport. Before they say delayed or they update the timing of when the next flight is going to be, Flight Stats will tell us before we know, because you can track it you can look up your flight by your actual flight, by your airport, or by the route that you're on. So if you have a friend that's traveling, you want to make sure that they get there okay, you can just put in their information, as much information as you know, and it typically can pull up or figure out what flight they're on, and you can track it to make sure that they're there on time. If you're picking up somebody from the airport, or you just want to make sure that they're safe in their travels. So that's Flight Stats is a good one for that. It's an app we download. So those are the main ones. We'll put those in the show notes. Check those out. If you have other suggestions, please put those in the comments because we want to share those. I'm always looking for new apps and new ways to improve, like things like Hopper. And there's all kinds of new stuff that's coming out that helps you track flights. Oh, Google Flights as well. We use Google Flights to find new flights. That's another good one. But yeah, there's things that we're always looking at, new ways to organize, save time, and then find those epic trips that we're going to go on soon. So if you got those, please put those in the comments and we'll share them in a later cast. And thank you for listening. We talk about it often, but we absolutely love Airbnb and the opportunities it's given us around the world to have unique stays, stay with amazing hosts, and get the inside scoop on local activities. It's been a really cool way to meet people around the world. We've stayed with former surf pros in South Africa, a 5-star chef in Peru, and a wine producer in the hills of northern Italy. You can choose to stay with somebody in their home while they're there, or you can rent out the entire place by yourself. It's also a great way for those large family getaways when you don't want to separate the family in multiple hotel rooms, but you can have the entire house to yourself in a huge, sometimes even in mansions. Please check out passportjoy.com/stay. Again, passportjoy.com/stay for an up to free $40 credit on your first booking with Airbnb. And not only just staying around the world, but you might want to host out your home as well. It's been a great way for people to make money on the side and maybe even create your own travel fund, as we have heard on the road that people do. That gives them a chance to travel on their own if they just host a family or two, maybe once or twice a month. So consider that. When we were looking to travel, obviously clothing was a big deal. What clothes would we bring? I struggled with my pants for a while. Because I'm a bigger guy, it takes up so much of your bag. But I ended up finding Mizman and Main pants. Again, Mizman and Main pants. And yes, they are a little bit more expensive, but the cost is worth it now that I've been on the road because they're wrinkle-free. They're extremely comfortable. Very easy to take care of, light in the bag, which was a big deal, extremely light in the bag. They're stretchy and they're versatile. You can wear them to church, you can wear them for nights out. I've hiked with them up Machu Picchu and my other hikes because I brought no other pants except my Mizzen and Mains, 2 pair, and they're versatile with the shirts I chose as well. And I'm extremely happy with these pants. Go to passportjoy.com/pants to get $25 off your first order. Again, passportjoy.com/pants to get your $25 off your order. And also check out our tools page that talks about all the things that we use on our travels at passportjoy.com/tools for other deals. Okay, this is a question and answer session. Again, if you got questions that you want to ask us, the easiest way might be matt@passportjoy.com, but also within our Instagram, our Facebook page, there's various ways you can get in contact with us through the website. Just please do that. We get a lot of these questions when we're traveling the road from other travelers as well. And some of these are most common, but we've selected a few to talk through today. We'll get through as many as we can in this section. So the first one is from Steve from Denver asked, have you guys been put into any scary situations on your travels? And we've been very fortunate where we haven't had a lot of, thank God we haven't had anything that's been super crazy, but we've had situations that come to mind that we're going to talk about today. The first one was as we had landed, we just started our trip in Santiago, Chile, and it really changed the way that we ended up doing some of our financial stuff moving forward with our travel. We were sitting at a cafe shop, and it was a nice cafe, because I remember we looked it up on Yelp or one of the places, and we found it because it was on our walk home through the town. And we stopped there to get coffee and maybe lunch, I think we got lunch. But if you can imagine, a nice cafe that had outdoor seating, but also indoor seating. And what separated the two was a big glass window. So Nikki and I were at a 2-seat table against the window, just enjoying our coffee and prepping for the meal. And she says to me, Matt, that guy is writing down numbers, like 16-digit numbers on a pad and paper on his computer. Now we could see this guy through the window, through this huge window, but he necessarily wasn't looking at us. It's one of those weird situations where you can kind of glance over and see somebody, but they don't know that you're recognizing them as well if you do it on the sly. So she says this, and I'm like, oh, there's no way. I'm like, there's no way this guy's doing it. And she's like, no, watch. You got to watch. So I would every once in a while like peek over. And by the way, so he's sitting by himself, laptop open, and a bag in a chair next to him. So we continue to watch this guy like we're undercover Fed agents. And sure enough, every time the server goes to a table to get to the bill where a credit card is paid. And so, in South America and actually in Europe and a lot of countries now, they bring these devices to the table they bring them tableside that take your credit card at the table. Because of the security reasons, they don't want to leave with your credit card. Like in the States, often they'll just take your credit card and they'll come back. A lot of these places now will come to your table with the device and swipe it at your table. You sign for it, everything right there. You pay for it, and they leave with this. It's like maybe a shoe size device that they bring to the table. So sure enough, every time the servers were going to the tables to get the payment, anytime a credit card would come out, this guy would jump between websites, because I could slyly look. He was on like an Italian financial website, and then he would jump to a different website. And every time the card would come out, he would start whatever. To us, he was pulling information from that card, and then he would write a number down on his pad and pencil next to him. And then it looked like he was jumping into another website to probably sell that information, which was extremely odd.
And then he'd cover it up with like a piece of paper.
Yeah. So then he knew if somebody walked by, they didn't want to see a 16-digit number, because of course we'd all be like, well, what the hell is that? So he did this repeatedly, multiple times. We didn't know if the servers were in on it. It was just such an odd deal that we left there thinking there was no doubt about it. That guy was taking information, stealing credit card information, and throwing it on the black market quickly and doing whatever. I have no knowledge how this industry works, but we left there extremely we had full intentions to pay with the credit card as much as possible when we travel because of the point system and trying to maximize the points as much as we can. And that from there, that was our first 7 or 10 days on the road, and we changed from there.
Yeah, what we assumed is that in his bag on the table was that he had some sort of card reader that every time the server would take the credit card and swipe it, that maybe he was reading with his card reader the person's information from their credit card. And nowadays, your credit cards have those chips in it, the electronic chips. And we've now since found out that those are not as safe as the credit card companies have claimed that they are. So I think what was happening is the card reader was in the bag and he was getting the information when the server was swiping the credit card. And then he was pulling that information to his computer and then doing what we had described and writing down the number real quick so then he could feed it to his computer system and whatnot. So yeah, it was just super weird. And like Matt said, we completely changed our behavior on our travels because we didn't want to become victims of the same scam, so to speak.
Yeah, so that was absolutely a scary situation. It did not affect us. And to be honest with you, we didn't do anything about it. I mean, we didn't tell anybody about it. I later reached out to I've got a cop detective buddy back in the States, and I talked to him about it. There's really nothing you can do. I mean, even if we would have stood up for ourselves and said something about it, I think it would have put us in more jeopardy than the situation than we wanted to be in. So we didn't really, there's nothing we can do about it. It just made us absolutely more aware of what was going on. So another one was, I'll let Nikki tell this one.
So in Cusco, Matt was out and about running an errand and I was by myself. There was this park in the Central Square area and I was just watching people watching. And at the time, this lady was coming over to approach me and she was selling like little trinkets and items. And I really didn't want to buy anything that she had, but I was just trying to be nice. So I approached this bench that was right by me and I sat down, but she was still walking towards me. And I just very nicely said to her, like, I really don't want anything, like, no, thank you. And she almost became like somewhat pushy, like showing me items, like taking things out of her pocket, taking things off her cart. And I just kept saying like, no, thank you, no, thank you. And she was getting more close to me. So I noticed these two men like walking towards me and they said hello to her and she looked over her shoulder and started talking to them as if they sort of knew her, like they were friends of hers. And that's not uncommon in South America with these people who sell their items. They know a lot of people. I mean, they work the town squares. They're local people. I mean, that's how they make their living. But I kind of just was watching like her body language. And then the next thing I knew, one of the men sat next to me on my left-hand side. And then the other one sat down immediately on my right-hand side. And I was like, what are they doing? And so, I mean, I'm by myself and she's standing in front of me. And so they started talking to me. Of course, we're in Cusco and it's not in English. And he was asking me like, how are you? Like, what's your name? And they were inching towards me, like kind of scooching towards me. So I just immediately stood up and tried to like get out of her way because it was almost like they were all like enclosing me in. And I just walked away. And so I don't know what they were going to do. Most likely probably pickpocket me is what I just tried to tell myself. But it was just kind of one of those situations where I knew something just didn't feel right. And I felt like all three of them were kind of working together. So it was just kind of scary just because I was by myself. And then come to find out, as I was walking away, there was this church across the street. And I looked back, they were still talking to each other. So they were definitely trying to do something, or at least I knew they knew each other. So it wasn't just like, coincidence, or it was, they knew each other, but that was kind of scary.
Yeah. And it's cool that Nikki understood that she could feel what was going on, and with the eye contact they were making, everything, that she got herself out of that. So that was awesome. The other scary situations that we've been on is dogs. In South America, dogs run the streets, and they run the streets in big numbers. There was actually a point, I took a photo when we were in Cusco, Peru. That's where a lot of the Inca ruins are as you go to Machu Picchu. But the town in Cusco, I took one photo that had 16 dogs in it, in a pack. There was several groups of 4 and 5, but they were all within 30, not even, probably 20 feet of each other. All these dogs just hanging out together. So these dogs would travel in huge packs. And it gets scary at times because you just don't know. They're not domesticated. They're wild dogs. Most of them are extremely friendly because the towns take care of them and they treat them right. And the dogs know not to attack. They actually attack other, I guess, the residential dogs that people have. Those are the only situations that we saw. But we did get into a couple of situations where it got scary for us with the dogs. One story was in San Pedro de Atacama where we had a hostel and we were arriving at a hostel through Airbnb. So the communication was good, but it wasn't super clear. And it's sometimes you got to watch for that with newly listed Airbnbs. And it was a lesson learned for us. But we arrived in the town of San Pedro late via bus. And once we got there, we decided that, hey, we can foot it. On the map, it looked closer. Sometimes Google Maps lets you down, but it looked closer than what it ended up being. It was with our backpacks and everything. It was probably about a 1.5 mile walk, and it was dark. It was getting dark. But by the time we got there, it was pretty pitch black. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. But we had the flashlight with us that we carry. So we felt okay, and we were going down these like seedy roads where, yeah, these dirt roads that like you're just kind of making your way through these, like not cornfields, but they were like definitely like fieldish outside, not like a city at all. It was dirt roads. So we end up getting to where I thought the property was, but we could not find it. On the map that we looked at on our Google Maps, it looked like it should be there, but it wasn't. And it didn't fit the description of what was on the listing because it was behind these walls. So we just kept walking. We ended up passing it at first. And then we get to the property about probably a 1/4 mile down. And it was some chaotic dogs that just came at us hard because there was a girl in their backyard. And so the dogs were protecting the girl. Now we weren't like going on the fence. We were just walking the streets, but these dogs could easily jump the fence based on the height of the fence and the size of the dogs. They were massive. So I had the light, I shined it on the light actually works, shined on the dogs. And I yelled to the owner about the dogs, and he spoke no English. In Spanish, Nikki is great at Spanish, but in Chile, it's really a different Spanish. And when you're kind of freaked out, it was crazy and it was pitch black. So that situation got us really freaked out where we thought we were going to be attacked by these dogs, and it was quite scary. And we had another situation where we were walking to meet this guy for a church and a kids orphanage thing on a Sunday. And Nikki, I'll let you tell this one.
So yeah, another dog story is we were walking to meet the pastor of a church. He invited us to his home for breakfast beforehand. And we had an idea of where his home was located, but he just said, my home is up this flight of stairs. And so we were like, okay, sure, whatever, we'll leave a little bit early. So again, Google Maps it's reliable for the most part when you're driving on major highways and, like known streets. But when you're walking in the back roads of Cusco, Peru, and you have to walk up flights of stairs and things like that, it becomes very unreliable. So we were walking up this massive flight of stairs. And when I say massive, I don't even know how many steps we were walking up, but it had to be well over 200 steps. It was, by the time I got to the top, I was winded. And so we get to what we think is the top, and we're looking around, and I don't even remember if we were looking for a number or just general vicinity, but we get to this sort of like platform area, and all of a sudden we hear this probably medium-sized dog bark. You could tell it's not a huge dog barking, but I hear it and I look over and I remember saying like, oh, look at that cute little dog. And then all of a sudden, like a bat out of hell from nowhere, this dog like leaps off the roof of this house. And this roof at this point is eye level with us. And Matt like has to pick up a rock, and we are thinking like, okay, is this dog going to attack us or whatnot? But I ran, I was super scared. And Matt's like telling this dog to get away from us. And there's just people staring at us. And, for them, it's probably normal. And they know this dog is not going to attack us. But for us, this dog we don't know if it's up to date on its shots or whatnot. But it literally lunged at us like it was going to kill us. And yeah, we were completely lost. And it's scary. When you don't know a dog, even the smallest of smallest dogs, we used to have a Chihuahua. They can be quite ferocious, and especially when they are protecting their owner's home. So yeah, dogs are the complete unknown, and no one wants to be bit and no one wants to hurt a dog. We're dog lovers. So yeah, dogs, yeah, they like to defend their property. So
Yeah, I did not hit that dog, by the way. But it can be. Dogs are, and all animals can be scary on the road, and you just got to be aware. And that situation, we lucked out. We found somebody that was around there, and we asked them where to go, and they took care of us. So it all worked out in the end. The other situation it happened in India. I'll let you describe it. Oh, you're going to talk about something else? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just had one happen to me in South Africa in Mossel Bay when I was walking on my own. We're short distance. It's only about 1 kilometer from the grocery store that we walk to. So it's not really necessary to have a car. I mean, we have bicycles, which I could ride, but it's more of a pain in the butt to take the bike back just because we're on a hill. So riding it back uphill with groceries on your back is not fun. So as I was walking to the grocery store, there's workers around here. They kind of travel in packs. And so they go to and from work in pickup trucks. And so they'll typically have like a driver and a passenger in the front seat. And then the bed of their pickup truck, the driver will take everybody to work in like big, huge groups of people. So you'll have like a car full of men. And sometimes I've seen women that ride in the bed of the pickup truck, well, in the back. And so I was walking by myself, and it was during the day, but I heard someone whistle, and then the pickup truck completely stopped in the middle of the road. And I look over, it's, 2 men in the front and probably no less than 5 or 6 men in the back. The car's completely stopped and there's no one else around, and it's just me. And, they're shouting things in Afrikaans to me and I have no clue what they're saying. So I just looked over and I continued on my walk. But I mean, that's a scary thing because you think to yourself for a split second, you hope no one's going to do anything bad, but why are they stopping? And 7 men against 1 of me. I mean, there's nothing I can do except for try to run away at that point. So yeah, I mean, you just, for the most part, everyone's good. I mean, no one really wants to do anything. And most likely they were just probably trying to say hi. But I mean, for 1 split second, I was definitely scared.
The story I'm going to tell is about, it comes from India. We were indoor for the Diwali celebration, but it was a few days before, and we were there for something called Rajwada. And Indore is like a big celebration in their town. And Indore is a huge city. I mean, most of the cities in India are huge, but this city had a massive celebration in their downtown where they would, tons of markets selling all kinds of different things from t-shirts to everything, toiletries. They had everything at this market, and it was massive amounts of people. And because it was during Diwali, the whole town would go there and celebrate. And because Indore is not a huge tourist city, we were only 2 white people, North Americans, that we saw while we were there. We later found out that some business people do go there for different businesses, but for the most part, we really stuck out. So when we stuck out so much that within this huge celebration, I really stick out in crowds, that a lot of the kids, the teenagers and the younger kids wanted to do selfies, and they want to take selfies with us, which is cool. We're into that, and that's fine. Whenever that happens to us, we always take them because we don't know if this is going to be the last time they get to see an American. We want to make the best impression possible. But this situation got pretty crazy because there was a ton of kids asking us. And so through that scenario, which was a lot of fun, interacting with the kids and everything, we continued to just walk around and kind of window shop or whatever, just look at the different clothes and everything that was available. As I was looking behind us, I noticed that there was one kid, I call him a kid, but he was probably 19, 20 years old. He continued to follow us. He had a particular shirt on that stuck out and it was easy to remember. So he kept following us, and I told Nikki we say to stay on yellow. It's actually a code word that we found in a book that we've read and listened to. But I told Nikki to stay on yellow, and she understood what I meant. And we kind of just paused and we changed directions just to make sure that if this kid was following us, we would know that he was following us. So sure enough, he continued to follow us down another road that was pretty crazy and busy, but he was still back there, probably 15 feet behind us. So this went on for probably 7 minutes or so, and enough that it freaked us out a little bit, because you just don't know. I mean, hopefully it was, all of his intentions were the right way, but it felt wrong. So we got to a point where I asked, most of the teenagers in India speak English, but to me, it's rude to ask a kid if if they speak English, especially when they're with their parents. So I went with the parents and I just said, "Excuse me, do you speak English?" And sure enough, the dad turned to the teenage son and Hindi asked him to talk to me. And I asked the young man again, I said, "Do you speak English?" He said, "Yes." Then I tell him, I said, "Hey, can you ask this guy behind me why he's following me?" And I pointed to the kid that was following me. And the teenager looked at me kind of like, "What's going on?" I just said, "Hey, buddy, I just need to know why this guy's following me, continues to follow us. I just want to make sure that nothing's wrong." And so he asked him in Hindi, and the 19-year-old scampered away quickly. Like he gave us a look like, kind of like he was devastated, but I don't know what that meant. Like, did we break his heart because he was just trying to talk to us or something? Or because, I forgot to say, at one point I asked the guy what was going on, but he didn't speak English. So he didn't know what I was even saying. So that at that point I was like, okay, I can't talk to this guy. So I don't know if he obviously doesn't want to have a conversation with us, but that's where it got a little bit more odd. So after the teenager asked me and he scampered away, then the teenager looked at me like, wow, that must have been something. But we didn't know. We just we're really big on looking people in the face, look them in the eyes, make sure that they understand that you're aware of the situation that's going on, because the more aware they are, the less likely they are to make an attempt on anything. So we were covering all those bases and doing the right things. And then luckily we got out of that situation okay. You just never know. And in those scary situations, as Nikki just described, you don't know if it's just people seeing somebody that's foreign to them and they just want to interact. But I mean, we're really good at our understanding our gut at this point and doing the right thing. But sometimes you just don't know. So hopefully that young man wasn't turned off by foreigners forever. And hopefully it was just a good situation. But like I said, we've been extremely fortunate for all scary situations, and nothing, knock on wood, nothing crazy happened so far where that it's huge, like some of the stuff that you see in the news or whatnot. But there are a few that stick out at this time. Okay, we're going to wrap up the Q&A for this segment. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to write in at matt@passportjoy.com or any of the socials, and we will reply as we get to them. Thanks. Shame on that. Traveling is great, but sometimes the situation isn't, and that's when you got to say shame on that, and hopefully they correct their behavior. Today we're going to talk about driving fails. One thing, when you're taking public transportation around the world, you get in situations where you're on public buses, taxis, tuk-tuks, sometimes motorbikes, scooters, and you're at mercy of the driver. And we've been in scenarios where these guys work hard, long hours in the sun a lot of times, because as you know, we're traveling with the sun. So it'll be their summertime and they've been driving for what could be a 10, 12-hour shift. You don't know where they are on that shift. And they might be at the end of a really long, hard day. So there's been cases where I've looked up and the driver is falling asleep. And this is a big time shame on that. And I've done it at least twice where we've been on public buses and I catch the eyes of the driver through the mirror and I see the guys falling asleep. And I'll either, if I'm close enough, I'll go up and talk to the guy just to make sure that they're waking up, or I'll make a noise or make a large movement to make sure that the guy is driving well.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty scary when you think about it. I mean, a big, huge bus like that for someone driving at high speeds. And I mean, if someone falls asleep, I mean, we're goners. I mean, the whole bus is just going to flip. So, I mean, I get it. They're working long hours, but I mean, there should be some sort of regulation on that. I mean, I really don't want to have to watch my driver driving me at all times, making sure he's not sleeping. I mean, when I'm tired, I don't drive. So that's it. But another shame on that having to do with driving is we've had a couple instances where we have gotten in taxi cabs or Ubers and they will not have a GPS in their car. So we have like a destination where we'll have to go and they'll say like, well, can you pull up your phone and tell me where you need to go? And we're like, okay, so bro, you're wanting me to use my cellular data now. And to get you to my destination. Like, and Matt'll joke with them and be like, so are we getting a discount? I don't know if it's just like they don't get the humor or what, but I mean, it's real. Like, we're in the middle of nowhere and you want me to pull up my phone and you want me to use my data and like pull up my GPS for you to get me to where I need to be. And of course we're going to do it. I mean, we need to get to our location, but definitely a fail there. Like, you're the taxi cab driver. You should be getting me somewhere. And in the Uber case, their phone will die. Like, their battery will be dying or their GPS will go out because obviously their phone worked to pick up a ride. But we've had many instances where they'll say, oh, I'm sorry, my GPS just went out. And it's like, okay, but isn't this your job? Like, this is what you're doing. You're driving me. That's your driver. So definitely a fail there. And then another thing is Google Maps. Like, Google Maps is great when it works, but when it doesn't work, it can be absolutely terrifying. We had a situation in Corfu where my sister and brother-in-law and niece, we were going out to this amazing dinner that the two had come up with. And we were supposed to eat at this like castle-like place on a hill to watch the sunset. And we were driving and we were going along with what Google Maps had told us to do. And I don't really know like the logistics of the whole thing, but we were basically just following Google Maps. And we ended up driving in this like inclined gravel, dirt, like foresty hill road. And no joke, there were people that lived in these hills in like tin huts and tents. And I mean, it was like straight out of the movie Deliverance. Like, at one point we had to, like, my sister was upset because her daughter was in the car. I mean, she's a baby. And I mean, at any moment we could have fallen off the cliff. And we had to get out of the car because the weight of my sister and I being in the back seat was too much for the car, that the car's butt was dragging on the gravel and scraping on the bottom. And it was just to the point where it was like, how is this even possible that Google has this as a route? I mean, that's a pretty dangerous situation. Like, what if we couldn't have gotten out of that? I mean, our car would have been ruined. We would have been stuck up on the hill. So definitely a shame on that. Like, don't trust Google Maps in some situations when you're out in the middle of nowhere. But yeah. Say what? Say what?
All right, I hope you enjoyed that episode. As always, you can find the show notes for each episode at passportjoy.com under the podcast tab there. For this episode, we have the links to a lot of the different technologies that were mentioned. Obviously, we talked about Google Fi, the travel adapter, all the different things that we mentioned, that we have a link to all those in the show notes category for each episode. So we took some time to do that. So please take advantage of that. Okay, let's talk about the contest. We have over $1,000 worth of prizes that have been donated to us from some of the products that we know, use, and love. Today's contest prize comes from the Birch Boys Chaga Coffee and Tea Company. These guys are out of upstate New York. I reached out to them because I just love their product. I had a friend bring it to me in South Africa after I read about it online, and I have been carrying it with me, the tea and the coffee, and it's delicious and it gives me a ton of energy. I did some research on chaga prior to, and what it is, it's a superfood. It's a super mushroom that has one of the highest antioxidants concentrations among any food in the world. I think you're going to start to see and read more about chaga, but it's rich in antioxidants, nutrients, vitamins, and it's absolutely caffeine free. Now that's the tea. Obviously there's caffeine in the coffee. This stuff is delicious. If you are a coffee drinker, I would suggest at least try it because it's been a game changer for me. I was not really a tea drinker prior to, but I love this tea. I don't put anything in it. I just drink the chaga tea as it is, black, and it's delicious. So go to passportjoy.com/coffee to see more about this. They also have other products like soap and stuff like that. So thanks to those guys for donating the great prizes that we have for this. And you enter the contest by giving us a review on iTunes. If you're not sure how to do that, I have a step-by-step tutorial on our website, so check that out. Thank you for those that have already reviewed. We have several reviews already. So thank you for those people. Obviously, you're already entered into the contest. Okay. As always, please subscribe to the podcast using the tool that you use to listen to us here. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. And hopefully you're getting a value out of this because we're having a lot of fun doing it. And as always, safe travels, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks.